Okay, welcome to Unit 2. This is Unit 2, Working with Money. So Unit 1 was all about how do we get paid, and this is now Unit 2, Working with the money we do get paid. So this is two-part lesson. Part 1 is talking about unit pricing, and Part 2 is comparing unit prices to see who the better buy is. So which one would be cheapest? So the best buy is always something that is going to cost less. Okay, so the best buy costs less. So it is the cheaper deal. Okay, the cheaper deal. That's what's going on with that. So it says when items are sold in packages by mass or volume, we can compare the unit pricing to see what actually, when we want to compare to see who are the better buys. So the unit price is the cost of something per one unit of it. So it's the number per item. So it is the dollar amount per one item. Okay, that's only one item. So if I had, example, I had a carton of a dozen eggs. Okay, how much does the word dozen mean?
12.
Perfect. So that means I've got 12 eggs. And if I say a carton of eggs, we're going to say these are the farm raised. These are the, they're free range. They're going to cost us $8.99. That's pretty par for the course nowadays. So if I wanted to know what the cost of one egg would be, we always do it with this type of a formula. So here is our formula. Formula/equation. And this is how we find it. So we are going to say unit price equals it's going to be a fraction. It's going to be the cost. So total cost over amount. So the money is always on top, and you literally divide the numbers. So we're going to divide the numbers. We're going to take total cost, divide by the amount. So for this example, my unit price is going to be $8.99 divided by 12. And when I do that, we're going to find the cost of one egg. So 8.99 divided by 12 eggs is 0.75. So because it's dollars and pennies, remember like we did with our last unit, we need to see two numbers after the decimal because that tells us dimes and pennies. So that means we've got 0.75 per egg. So that's telling us in money 0.75 per one egg. Okay, whenever you get this slash sign, so this here, I'll put it in a different color here. This slash sign right here has a meaning. It actually means it's a symbol, and that symbol means each, per, or every. So all three of those words mean the same thing. So that's saying that it costs 75 cents for each egg, per one egg, or every egg. Okay, that's what that's telling us. So it says the unit price is a type of quantity that can be measured in kilograms or liters, or it may be costed in items per person. So they are not expressed in smaller units. So we use the bigger units. If they're expressed in smaller units, we do it per 100. So whenever, and this is a super important point about this one. So I want you to put it with a star, highlight it. We need to know that anything that is in grams, so meat you measure in grams. So when you buy meat, you might buy pork chops or some chicken or some beef at the store. It's going to tell you how many grams or how many kilograms it costs. So same with when you buy the difference with milliliters. So grams measures something solid. Milliliters measures something liquid. Okay, that's the difference. So think if it ends in an L, liters is liquid. Okay, G for grams, that's always going, kilograms, if anything that's grams is going to be something solid. So anything, all of our measurements are going to always be kilogram or liter. But if it's not, if it says for milliliter or for grams, we need to put the number 100. And then we cross multiply. This becomes a two fraction cross multiply and divide situation. So that's what actually happens. So we're going to set the two quantities. We'll put the unit price, and then we'll put it per 100 grams, and we cross multiply to figure it out. So we're going to be doing those things right away here. So I'll let you write that down, and then we're going to talk about the next section. Okay, so here's... Thank you, Cohen, for that very interesting interlude. Okay, next we are going to our examples. So we have to remember a couple different conversions. So this is talking about our metric system. So if we've got kilometers over here, we would have hectometers, we would have decameters, we put meters in the middle. That's called our base unit. Then we would have decimeters, a small letter D. Then we've got centimeter. And then we would have millimeter. Now, the base unit here would be meters. Every time you go left or right, you're moving the decimal place. If you go left, you're moving it to the left. If you go right, you're moving it to the right. You could also think of it as timesing by 10 each step or dividing by 10 each step. So if you move this way, you're going to divide by 10 each step. And if you go to the right, you're going to times by 10 each step. Now, the three conversions we worry about most because we've got three different things we measure. We have liters, which is liquids. And we talk way more about liquids in Unit 5. We have kilograms. This is going to be for solids. And then we have meters, which is distance. Okay? So most of the food we buy is going to be in kilograms or grams. Okay? That's how most of our food is. And then we take a look, our liquid foods, okay, so all the liquids in our freezers and stuff at the grocery stores, those are all going to be in liters or milliliters. So when we talk, the biggest conversion we need to know is that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. And the reason is because if I start right here, because our base unit is either meter, liter, or gram. So those three are the base units. So all that happens is the second letter, this second letter is the base unit. So it would either be kiloliter, kilogram, kilometer. Over here, the biggest one we want to do is being able to go from meters to millimeters and milliliters to liters. And it's 3 spaces. You're going 3 spaces. That's why there's 3 zeros, or you times by 10 3 times. That's where the 1,000 comes from, because you're actually moving up and down that scale one way or the other. You're either multiplying by 1,000 or dividing by 1,000. So we're actually going to do a few examples. It's going to make way more sense when we do a few examples. So we have unit price. This is going to say letter A, and this is B. So we've got $35.16 for 40 liters of gas. That's cheap gas. Yes, please. Give me some of that. So whenever you see an amount of money and then you see an amount of an object, all you're going to do is put the money on top of the object. So this is going to be 35.16 divided by 40. That's all it's going to be. And that's going to give you, now take a look, here's your units. Units, if they're identical, they'll cross off and cancel. If the units are different, you need to use them both. Well, I have dollars and I have liters. They're different, so I'm going to use them both. So that means my answer is going to be per liter, which is what we want. So when I divide that, I'm going to get 0.88 cents per liter. That's how we would write it, and that's how we say it. It's per liter or every liter. We have another eggs example. Here we have a cheap set of eggs, a cheap dozen eggs. So we're going to take our money and divide by 12. If you don't want to write the whole thing out, just literally draw a line under the money and put the amount underneath it. That's all you're doing. You're dividing. So we're going to divide those, and that's how much we get for one egg. So I have 0.27 cents per egg. If you take a look at the example we did before of the eggs, that's how much eggs have gone up in like 5 years. Eggs have gone up over $5 in 5 years. Okay, they've actually increased in price. Turn your page. We're going to take a look at the next page. We have a few examples. So again, we see stuff. Whenever we check, our first thing we want to check is check the units. Check for milliliters or grams. You got to check for those because it changes how we set up the question. If we have milliliters or grams, that's where we need to put two fractions, and then we cross multiply. So in this question, the first two questions, it was liters. We didn't have milliliters. We didn't have grams. In this one, though, we have milliliters. So we have to look for milliliters or we have to look for grams. So if we see one of those, we now create two fractions. The first fraction, 1.75, the money over the amount. This doesn't change. Okay, so that's our first fraction. But now we're going to say, instead of I wanting 1, because when I divide those, that gives me 1 milliliter. Whenever we're doing small units, just like what I showed you guys, the scale. So if I've got, we'll go kilograms, hectogram, decagram. You have your grams, decigram, centigram, milligram. So right now, we're dealing with liters. It's the same idea. So here, milliliters. Anything in grams or milliliters, we will always set it up as X over 100 of that unit. So in this question, we're using milliliters, or we're going to have X over 100 grams. It's going to be one or the other. So we're solving for the X number. So now I'm going to solve. I'm going to put my X on top, and now I'm going to put my 100 milliliters. This is the part we have to understand, that this part goes there no matter what. So let me find a different color. So green. So this right here, this will go that way no matter what. The minute you see milliliters, the minute you see grams, you have to set it up that way. Now we just cross multiply and divide. So now we're going to go like this. We're going to loop it. We're going to multiply that and divide. So now when I get my answer, I'm going to get 0.70 cents. And like we did, if you look in the right at the very top of this page, we should see from the bottom of the other page that 0.88 cents per 1 L, 1 liter. Now we have to put, because we did it as small units, we have to include that we did the smaller unit. We did milliliters. So if we use the cross multiply, we have to show that in our answer. Okay? So if we use the cross multiply, it has to show as part of our answer. Okay, let's try the next question. Same idea. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take money, $12, on top of our vitamins. And do I have anything that says grams or milliliters? No. So that means we don't have to set it up like this. We don't need the X over 100. We just literally divide this one. Okay? So sometimes we're going to divide and sometimes we have to cross multiply. It depends on if our unit is milliliter or gram. This is just talking about plain old vitamins. It doesn't matter. Just like the eggs, it didn't matter. So we're just going to divide the numbers and we end up with my favorite number, 0.17 cents per vitamin. So it's going to cost 17 cents per each vitamin. Because it's my birthday. 17. Well, not 0.17. 17 is my favorite number. Okay. 8 batteries. So it's like the eggs. 8 batteries. I'm going to take the number and divide by 8. Done. You don't have to draw out the cross multiply and divide because it's not milliliters and it's not grams. So all we're doing is money divide by amount. Okay, so it's always money divide amount. And that's the only equation you need to remember other than when milliliters and grams. So that's going to give us 0.72 cents per battery. Okay, so that means for one battery, it's going to cost you 72 cents. Okay, and again, every question I look at, I'm checking to see if, do I have milliliters or grams? Always checking. Well, darn it. In this next one, I've got grams. So that means I got to go to the cross multiply. So now I'm going to have always the money, always the money on top. So $1.99 over 170 grams equals X over 100 grams. Just going to clean that up. It's sketching out a little bit here. Okay, so the minute we see that we have an X now, this is our cross multiply and divide. So we multiply that and divide by our 170. And again, because we're doing a cross multiply and divide, this per 100 grams is part of my answer. So now I'm going to say this is going to cost me $1.17. There's that number again, per 100 grams. Okay, so because we had to cross multiply, I got to keep that unit. So I have to show this part because I cross multiplied. Okay, 2 last examples, and then I need to show you one where we have something in the thousands. So 3 examples, and we're good to go here on part A. Part 1, I should say. Okay, so milliliters. Again, I see a darn milliliter, so that means I need to cross multiply this question. So again, money's on top, $1.75 on top of 500. Yes, put your units or you'll forget what you're doing. Equals X over 100 milliliters. And we're going to cross multiply and divide. That is going to give us 35 cents. So 0.35. 35 cents per, since we did milliliters, 100 milliliters. We have to use that because it was part of our equation here. We cross multiplied, it's part of our answer. Somebody tell me, do I need to cross multiply on my tickets question?
No.
No, you're right. Because there's no milliliters and there's no grams. So this one is just money divide by amount. So 300 dividing by 6, that means $50 per ticket. So that means for one ticket, it's $50. Last example. We're going to do example with examples for items counted in thousands. So you're at the hardware store and you need to buy a bucket of nails and you're going to buy 9,000 nails. And you want to find out how much it costs per nail. We don't do that per nail. What we would do if it's in the thousands, just like these guys, we would do per 100. If it's in the thousands, we do per 1,000. So, for example, I do have an example over here. Let me just grab it real quick. So, let's say I've got 5,000 nails, costs $47 from the hardware store. You want to know the unit price. So if I ask you for unit price, because it is in 1,000 amount, you're going to cross multiply. So this is again a cross multiply situation. So we're going to set up again money over amount. So we're going to have $47 on top of 5,000 nails. I'm going to put N for nails equals X amount. We don't know how much it costs for 1,000 nails. Okay, so items in the thousands we're going to use over 1,000. Again, cross multiplying and dividing. So our unit price per nail there is going to be $9.40 per 1,000, and we would say 1,000 nails. Okay, this concludes part 1 of lesson 1, unit pricing.